This is Election Day, 1988.
Michael Hill, can you hear me? Nod your head up now. Okay, we'll come to you next.
Channel 8 News.
Move it, Scott.
Are you all going to want to go live at 50 or wait till 53?
Stand by to pitch to caucus.
Every election is important.
Quickly now, let's take a look at what's happening nationally. He's got everything we need. We don't need to go back over there.
Oh, it's not time warp, people.
Wow.
1988.
Do you recognize some of those faces?
Oh, all of them.
That one? Yeah.
All of them.
And the guy in charge of it all there in the control room is sitting right here in there. He is. His hair looks a little
Jeff,
different.
it's not unusual for Iola and I to spend an election night together. We spent many of them
is that
together.
right? Yeah. We just saw evidence.
Had a lot of fun.
So tell us, that was
that was 1988. It was a promo done after the 88 election in which President George H.W. Bush defeated Michael Dukakis. But thought I'd roll it out so I could say I did have dark hair one time.
Back in the day.
And it's a delight to be on with Iola and talk about those things. It was always a big fun night.
Yeah,
Hey, it's fun tonight, too.
Well, it's fun tonight, too.
So let's
you
go.
know, it doesn't
Let's talk
change a whole lot.
about-
John Weekley, thank you so much. Feel free to butcher my name. I did before the break. So you can call me Jeff Batty or Brad or whatever you'd like. But thank you again for being here with us tonight. And, you know, that promotion tees up a conversation we were talking before the program tonight about voter fatigue, and the auto dials and the direct mail has already inundated many zip codes across the state. Is it just getting worse and worse and worse in terms of people who are tired of being beaten over the head with these messages?
I think the studies are going to tell us that voters get much more fatigued and more annoyed by the auto dial calls than they did when the volunteers, which by the way have done this for years, would go to a campaign headquarters and get on the phone and call and call and call and ask people to vote. But you know, typically people didn't mind answering the phone. So, hi, Mrs. So-and-so, this is you know, John Smith, and they seem to be happier to talk to somebody like that than they were to sit and listen to this droning on from recordings.
You know, John, I was talking to our Barbara Alfonso today, and he is in the Corona Huffines district, and Huffines knocked on his door, and the fact that a candidate actually took the time to come to his door made a lot of difference. I talked to another former colleague, Bob Crook, who's a poll judge up in Richardson, and there's a big state rep race going on up there. Stephanie, Linda Coop and Stephanie. Sorry,
There's
Stephanie.
a big race going on.
But Stephanie's been out shaking hands outside Mohawk Elementary all morning because there's something about the candidate himself or herself actually taking the time that I think goes a long way. And
it's the most effective thing you can do. The most effective way to win a vote is for the candidate to meet a person in person and introduce himself or herself and just spend 30 seconds with a voter. Alan Stillman won the district he won in 1972, which was a real long shot, because he went door to door in virtually the entire district.
Let me ask you about, speaking of voter fatigue and alienating certain voters, let's talk about immigration for a minute, because it's such a hot button issue here in Texas, affects so many of us, and you can't find a candidate seemingly running for statewide office who's not talking about it, and yet this at a time when the GOP is trying to should be evidently trying to reach out to more minority voters. What about that?
The Republicans and the Republican Party have had a difficult time making a clear distinction between their feeling of unease over illegal immigration and the fact that most Republicans in surveys absolutely love immigration, and so many Americans are
love legal immigration.
Legal immigration, and so the Republicans are still trying to find their voice in a message that appeals to legal immigrants or doesn't offend illegal immigrants who may, by virtue of amnesty or some other method, become legal voters and be looking for a party to join.
This becomes a problem, especially on television campaign, when you have to get into explaining differences, because people...
Which takes time.
It takes time, and people don't want it. And in the meantime, you blanket the thing with all these spots about immigration on all these candidates' ads. If you are a Hispanic, you know, unless you explain it to me, I'm kind of thinking, you know, I'm the bad guy or something, you know, and nobody wants me. And it's a real challenge for the Republican Party.
No, that's absolutely true. 100 years ago, people were more interested in politics, so they would listen to longer explanations because they didn't have as many things that were competing for their attention. Now there are so many things, including social media, that keep messages very short and to the point. That it's difficult to explain in depth why a candidate should do a certain
And that's why we have programs like this.
Because we're going to talk social media tonight.
And we're going to talk about social media. If you can stick around, we'd love to ask you also about if candidates today are making many inroads in reaching voters using social media or not. So think about that. Up next on the Texas Daily, do you remember those gold coins? All the gold. A California couple found the coins. Right. Well, this was a true story. They found these coins buried on their property. Well, they may not be so lucky after all.
That's the bank in the middle of Beverly Hills.
I think so, right there. That's the vault.
In somebody else's name.
All right, we'll explain. Coming up next.